Good morning. It's nice to see everybody. Good morning. Okay, yeah, final day. Um, it's always sad when we've got to finish these sessions. I get so used to jumping on at this time every morning and having a chat with you guys. So it is always, yeah, it's not great when we have to come to an end, but I guess these sessions do have to come to an end. And I just wanted to let you know that it is I like to mark this day, which was the day that I moved into my own home. I bought my own place after my divorce, and today was the day that I got the keys and I moved in. And so that's why I like the final day to be on this day, just because it reminds me of how far we've come, but also the hope that there is when you get to the other side. You can find a place that is full of joy, peace, and stability. And I guess the 13th of February always marks that for me as well. We'd been homeless for a period. We were living with friends and family. So it was quite a difficult time prior to moving into the house. And that's why I guess today means so much. So thank you for joining me today on a day that has so much significance for me and the children. And it's really nice to see so many of you. And I've had so many messages telling me that these few days have been so helpful. So I do appreciate the messages that I've had and the feedback that I've had. So thank you so much if you have been sharing how you have found it with me. It's always good to hear from you and to find out your thoughts. So thank you for that as well. And what are we talking about today? So this week, I have talked about various things. The first day was all about the legal process. I talked a little bit about how divorce works, what is involved, and the timelines as well. And then we talked a little bit about the finances. It was a bit more in detail, but again, in an hour or half an hour, it's very difficult for me to cover enough information. But I talked you through the finance process, how it works. What factors do you need to take into account when you are looking at a settlement? What happens if you can't reach an agreement? How do you make it legally binding if you do get to an agreement? And then yesterday I was talking a bit about children and the law around making plans for your children and how you could document that, the kind of things you need to include in that document. So I hope you found those last 3 days useful. I think the replays have been sent out to you. You should have received them. If you haven't, then Nelma is on the call and he will help you find where the replays are so you can get access. And I'm now going to share my screen. Let's do that. So you can, so we can start. Some of you, if you've been on previous days, you will know that I talk for about 30 minutes, 35 minutes, depending on how animated I get, how much information I'm sharing, and also how much you're getting involved in the chat box as well. So if there's lots of things coming up for you, then yeah, sometimes it takes me a bit longer to work through the information. But do keep letting me know if anything resonates, any questions you've got. If you put them in the chat box, then I can come to them either while I'm talking or I'll answer them at the end. So you can get sort of general answers to your questions. Sometimes it's difficult to be really specific because I don't know enough, but I do try and give some information so that you've got an idea. So what are we talking about today? It's all about the support. Where can you go to get support? And I hope you can see my screen just before I sort of launch into everything. I hope you can. It looks fine to me. Oh, I'm jumping slides as well. That's not great. So, what do we need to look at when we're looking at the kind of support that you can get? Um, if you can get the right support, the right people in your corner, they can really help empower you, and also help you gain a level of knowledge, which is what you need. And sometimes you need that resilience through this process. Some of you have already shared with me where you're up to in the process, and I would love to hear from you if you haven't shared already where you're up to. And you can tell me again if you have shared before as well. It's always nice to find out who's in the room, where you're up to, so that I can tailor what I'm talking about. Those of you that have already begun in the process, you will know that it is tough. It is an emotional roller coaster, and trying to settle yourself, trying to find strength, trying to be in that situation where you are not triggered, you are not affected by every word the other person says, every letter you receive. It is a really hard thing to go through. You're facing the end of a relationship. You maybe are scared. You might be feeling quite emotional because when you went into the marriage, you thought it was forever, and now you're finding that that future has been taken away from you, and you have to find another reality. So there's that element of it. Maybe you're worried about finances, how you're going to make ends meet, how you're going to find somewhere to live and manage with half, maybe, we don't know what your settlement will be, but some of your assets being left with you, some of them with the other person, your income being reduced, and you have to financially manage. So you've got that fear. You've also got the fear of what happens with the children, how will things affect them? So there's plenty to be worried about during this time. And then you've got this whole legal process, and you've got the agreements that you need to reach with the other person. And during this time, you really find out the true person that you are dealing with. That's when everything comes to the surface. So you're also dealing with this new person that maybe you don't recognize, that is making things difficult for you. So there's a lot to deal with. Getting the right people around you is really important. And as I said, not only will you gain strength and gain knowledge, you will likely save money, get the best outcome, and come out of this in the right way. That's what we want. We want you to have this vision that's really strong and work towards it every day. And there's lots of ways of getting support. I'll talk to you about the different professionals involved in the process, how possibly you could save money, even though you will need some help, but you can still save money through everything that you'll be doing as well. So having this support team could really help you. You can get emotional support, practical help, information guidance. Sometimes you need your decisions sense checked as well. You might be getting to a point where you've reached a financial agreement and you don't know if this is fair. You don't know if this is something that you can make happen. Sometimes you need somebody else to look over it and say, okay, I think this is the right settlement for you. I can see how your life is going to be in the future. I can see that this is fair. I can see that you've thought of everything you need to. Sometimes a third person looking over it can really help you get an idea of all of these things. But also you need a safe space where you can discuss things, you can share, because you're going to have so much coming up for you, so many things that you're thinking about, so many things that you get affected by. Where can you go to share? Where you have got a place that is safe, but also a place without judgment, and somewhere where the person that you're talking to has a level of knowledge as well. So, these are the reasons why having a support team around you is really important. So, who needs to be by your side during this time? Well, the first thing is, and I should actually move my slides, that would be a good idea. So I get so involved in what I'm talking about, is emotional support. who do you need to help you emotionally? Um, let's have a look. Oh, I haven't been moving my slides at all. I've just been talking, haven't I? Um, you need emotional support because if you can get your emotions stable, if you can get your mindset strong, you can get through this in a better way. You'll find that decisions are much easier. And where you are triggered, where things get really difficult, and there will be times where things get just particularly hard, that at least you can manage. And obviously, you've got family and friends to talk to. They will help you, but they may not have legal knowledge. And I hear this all the time. My auntie down the road said um, her friend's daughter got the family home, and so you should get the family home. And everybody's situation is so different. So that might not necessarily be the case for you. So we need to think about where we get advice from. But also, when you talk to family and friends, you need to be careful about the information that you take on. Family and friends can help you practically, emotionally, they can help you with children, give you moral support. And so many of you will have that with your family and friends. It would be good to know if you have got support from your family and friends, because it can make such a big difference to you if you have. Some people will come to me and say, my family disowned me, they don't want to know, I don't have any help from them, or my family are abroad, so I don't get any assistance from them. So let me know, are you in that place where you are struggling to get support? Because there's lots of things that we can do to get you emotional and practical support as well. And then you have got, your professionals that can help you, professionals that are trained to help you with mental health, coping strategies, resilience, healing, all of these things. Sometimes you might be in a position where you can't afford to pay for this help. And I completely get that. I was in this position. I really couldn't afford to pay to get any help when I was going through my divorce. And I did struggle with mental health issues around that time. Lots of people do. So don't feel ashamed if you are struggling to manage. What I did, because I couldn't afford help and I knew that I needed help, I reached out to my GP and they had a counselling service, therapist service that could help me. The counsellor came into the surgery and I was able to see them there once a week. And from my point of view, it was a game changer for me. They really gave me some strategies that I've been able to use since then whenever things get really difficult for me, and a level of self-awareness about how I cope with things and really allowing myself to feel emotional, but to move forward as well. So I reached out to my GP, and that can be a really vital way of getting help. There can be a waiting list, of course, but for me, it was a great experience. And lots of my clients do this as well. So if you are struggling and you don't have funds to help you pay for sort of counseling or therapy, then think about where you could get assistance that you don't need to pay for. But it is really something that you need to look at. So there's lots of different professionals that can help you around your mental health, your mindset. Um, there's professionals that help with trauma, specifically trauma abuse therapists, psychotherapists, hypnotherapists. You've got EFT, which is emotional freedom technique, Reiki, and there's lots of other forms of healing. And then life coaches. A life coach can help you take action, decide where you are going. You may have a strong vision of what you want on the other side of your divorce, and a life coach can help you take action and explore what it is that you want to do, where you're going, and give you some tools to help you get there. Sometimes people can see things in you that you can't see in yourself, so they can give you tools to help you. I haven't used hypnotherapy, but my children did, and they found that really useful. With EFT, I have a local women's um, divorce support group, and we've had a lady come in and do EFT with us as a group live quite a few times, and it's been so beneficial. I've seen the benefits, and I've tried it as well, and I've loved it. So definitely worth thinking about that. If anybody wants to know details of the lady who came in to talk to us, I can always share that. And Reiki can, if you believe in sort of Reiki and healing forms like that, that can also really help. Some people turn to faith as well, or even other hobbies, to other things that they do that bring them joy, because that can really help you emotionally as well. So think about what you could do to help yourself, because as I said, this will mean that you will get stronger, you will become more resilient, and through that, you'll be able to deal with things in a better way. So sometimes I see people that haven't had help with their emotions, and what I find is that they are struggling so much that they often will accept a financial settlement that maybe is lower than I would have hoped. Maybe they sort of give in on certain things around the children because they're not coping and they need this to come to an end. So getting some help with your emotions can really help you stay strong. Have I got details for a life coach? I have. And to the person who asked that, Nelma, will you just remind me to put some details as a direct message to that person so that I can reach out and give details? And just seeing what you are saying, someone said as a direct message that they are in a stalemate where he refuses to acknowledge. That can happen often, where maybe they are, I don't know if you've heard of the 7 stages of grief. Sometimes a person is in denial, or they just refuse. They may be in that situation where they think if they acknowledge what you are saying, that you want to go ahead with this divorce, that it becomes reality. If they stick their head in the sand, that maybe it'll all go away and you'll stop talking about this. It may be that they just don't want the divorce and they cannot deal with it right now, or they're being difficult. Sometimes it's that as well. Um, I have a therapist from my cancer treatment and I have continued with her during the divorce too. Thank you for sharing that. I'd love to know how you have found that therapy. Has it been useful for you? You've continued, so it's obviously helping, but I'd love to know more. Also, my siblings all very supportive, but have only relied on a couple who would be able to help me in the way I need it. Yes. Sometimes talking to too many people isn't helpful either. The other thing that can really help is, and I don't think I've mentioned it on the slide, but support groups. There's lots of support groups around, and there may be some in your local area. So you could actually meet people face to face. It really helps with making friends, getting support, just having a laugh, sometimes doing something completely different to the divorce, but being around people that truly understand what you're going through, it makes such a big difference. I run one locally in North London. It's a women's support group. We have a WhatsApp group as well, so feel free to reach out to me and we can share details for that. The other thing is there's lots of men's groups as well. From in my area, North London, I've seen lots of men's groups, men supporting each other, which is important. Everyone needs support. Everyone needs to get help from other people going through this. So do reach out if you want details of support groups, men or women. The women's one, you could join mine, but also the men's one, there are local ones in North London, but there are groups everywhere that you could get support with. Again, at the end, I'll share details of how you can join the women's support group, and if there are any men that are looking for support, I can share local groups to me as well. And although my one is in North London, we meet in North London. The WhatsApp group is not North London based. It can be women from everywhere can join, and you've just got lots of women supporting you through. Okay, so let's move on to the next slide, and I'll remember to change my slides this time. Financial support. So how can you get help with your finances? And obviously, when you speak to a lawyer, if you speak to a solicitor or a lawyer, if you speak to somebody like me, we have a level of knowledge around finances. We'll be able to give you some information, but there's lots of professionals out there. Obviously, I'm not trained as a finance specialist. I just have knowledge from years of helping people and obviously my own finances as well. But sometimes you need to get specialist financial support. And there's lots of people that can help you. The times that you might need help with your finances from a specialist might be, for example, if you have got a few proposals that you are happy to go ahead with, or even one that you want to progress with. And before you tell the other person, it's always a good idea to understand that the things that you want to do are possible. So, for example, I had somebody approach me. They had already reached an agreement on their finances. They'd signed their finance order, the consent order, and it had been passed through the court. Everything looked fine. But then it came to doing what the consent order said, which was that the wife or ex-wife would transfer the family home into her name within a year of the consent order being granted. So that year comes about, and she doesn't know what to do. So she approaches me and says, I don't know how to do this. I have a look at her consent order. I had a look at her information, and I was a bit surprised that she had reached that agreement, that her solicitor, who she'd dealt with at the time, had helped her reach that agreement. So that was the worrying thing, that she'd actually reached this agreement and didn't work on whether it was possible to do the things that she said she would do. So a year on, she has to put the family home into her name. The mortgage at the time was 500,000, and she wasn't working because her children were very young. At the time she agreed this, she wasn't working. Her youngest was 1 year old, and her other two children were very young, and she hadn't gone back to work yet. So when it came to putting the house in her name, she couldn't do it. And nobody had told her that this might be an outcome. And so, although when I work with my clients, I'll talk them through that and say it's not good. You saying that you'll keep the family home, transfer it in a year is unlikely to happen at that size mortgage. So you need to think of something else. But the other thing is, a financial advisor can have a look at your proposed agreement before you go ahead with it and say, yes, this looks like something you could do. So is there a pension share there? Is there investments that you need to, cash that you'll receive that you need to invest and get a certain return to make sure you've got regular income coming in? Is it that you need to decide which property you'll keep? Are you looking at whether you can get a mortgage? There's lots of things there that might need to be looked at by a financial advisor. The other thing a financial advisor can do is they can do a cash flow analysis from now to age 100. And that can be a really useful thing to do. What that means is that they will assess, based on that proposal, how much cash you will have coming in and your expenses from now to age 100. They can see where you will have a shortfall. They can see what will happen when you retire. They can see if you decide that you're going to go on this big dream holiday, whether you're going to be able to afford it. Are your children going to university? Can you afford to support them at that point? So having that sort of cash flow analysis can help you plan the finance settlement that is right for you. Because if you don't do this, at some point you may end up in a shortfall, and then you're wondering what the hell you're going to do, and you may end up in debt. And we just don't want that. So it can be quite a useful thing to do. The next one is a mortgage broker, and they obviously help you with looking at your options for mortgages. So sometimes we think we're not going to get a mortgage. I have lots of people say, I won't get a mortgage. And when you work with a good mortgage broker, they can find creative solutions to help you obtain a mortgage. I've had many clients say to me, that's it, I just cannot do this. I'm not going to be able to keep the family home. And we've looked at it together. I've found a solution for them. They've been to the mortgage broker. The mortgage broker goes, yes, we can definitely do this. We might need to tweak these few things to make it happen. And at the end, they have managed to keep their family home within budget. Their proposal, their consent order was absolutely correct. And they've moved on and they're very happy because they started at a point where they thought they'd not make it happen. So having somebody like that can really help you as well. When people work with me, they get my little black book of contacts. So I pass them over to trusted third parties that I have sent clients to, and they've been very happy. So pensions advisors, do you need a pensions advisor? Most people won't, but sometimes you do. And the times that you might need a pensions advisor is if there is a pension share that is needed, potentially, because a pension share is where you take money out of one person's pension and put it into a pension for the other person. And usually it's a percentage that's moved. And sometimes if you've both got different pensions, it's hard to work out what percentage needs to be moved and from what pension would it be best for it to come out of. There's certain pensions you can't do a pension share from, the charges are too high, or actually it's not worth doing because it's a really good pension and you don't want to take any money out of a particular pot because it may be a final salary pension, for example. So getting that pensions advisor on board may be necessary if you've got a reasonable size pension and a percentage of it, whether it's 40% that should be moved or 50%, it will make a big difference. So sometimes it's worth investing in a pensions advisor to help you. So think about whether you need that. Don't rush to a pensions advisor. The way I work, I really believe in you keeping as much money as possible. So I encourage you not to spend too much money unless you need it. You may need it, but somebody can guide you on that as to whether to spend the money. I've seen lots of people spend money on pensions advice or a pensions report. They can cost about £2,000, and it really wasn't necessary. The amount of money that they spent didn't justify the level of pensions they had. So think about whether it's worth it because there's so many different terms involved in a pension. It can get quite complex, but it may not be worth it if your pensions aren't worth too much. So that's something to think about. So the next one is wealth management. And you might wonder, well, I'm going through a divorce, my wealth is going to be reduced. Why do I need to look at wealth management? So this is a person that will look at all your assets and possibly the proposal that maybe you've come up with and look at how to do it so that you're getting the best income from what you've got. You've arranged your assets in a way that's tax efficient, that possibly is efficient for capital gains tax, income tax, and inheritance tax, and actually gives you the most income. And maybe is the most cost-effective way of moving these assets. So depending on your situation, if you've got a good amount of assets, it may be worth speaking to a wealth management expert who is a financial advisor and could actually structure this settlement so that you get the best out of it. And then you've got accountants. So accountants are great for giving you advice on valuation of a business. If you've got a business, if the other person has got a business, you will need to get a valuation. And the accountant can usually, the business accountant can usually give you a first level valuation. It may be that later on you need to get an independent valuation of the business, but at least this is a starting point. And when you do that, ask the accountant to give you information as to how they came to that valuation as well, what they used, what calculations they did to come to that valuation. An accountant can also help with tax advice. Then they may not be specialist tax advisors, but they can help with a level of capital gains tax advice, for example. And talking of that, you can speak to specialist tax advisors as well if you need to get help around tax issues that sometimes do occur. Do you guys have any questions around finances and the financial support that you can get? Drop it in the chat box and I'll speak to you about that. Oh, I've missed a bit. Oh, I don't have my slide on legal support, so I'm going to have to just talk you through it, I think. You need support with the legal aspect, and that is really important. Who can you get to help you with the legal aspect? So the first thing is mediation, and I talked about mediation a little bit already. Wherever you, for example, can't sit down together and come to an agreement, mediation could be a good option. You can also use mediation where, for example, I've got a client right now, many clients right now, that can't seem to get financial disclosure from the other person. It feels like they are doing everything they can not to provide the financial information that they should be providing. One particular client who told me yesterday that her ex-husband just goes out all the time. He goes away and he's never in the house, even though they supposedly live together, because what he's doing is avoiding her because she keeps asking for financial disclosure. Her next step is now mediation for a mediator to say, you need to provide financial disclosure. If you don't, this is what could happen. When you have a trained professional who is neutral, that also explains the process, sometimes that can have more weight. So a mediator is a trained neutral professional who can help you and your ex have constructive discussions and help you reach agreements on different aspects. So the kind of things they can help you reach agreements on can be, how are you paying the bills in the short term while you're making decisions about your finances? Who lives in the family home? Again, until your finances are decided. It may be that you can't live together, and so it's better for one person to move out. They may help you reach decisions on what happens when one person moves out. How are the bills being paid? How is the mortgage being paid? How will you progress through? There can be agreements around children that are necessary. Sometimes it's where they go to school. Who will they live with? How much contact will they have with both of you? And other important questions around children as well. And also finances. They can help you reach an agreement around who's going to keep what. So really important step. Mediation can really help you save money, which I said to you that's very important to me that you save money. There's lots of different things that can be covered. And some people would say that, well, mediation is great, but I don't think that we'll reach an agreement. But actually, when you go to mediation, you'll learn so much about the other person because that is a space where they will speak up. So they will say, I've got my inheritance and you're not having a share of it. I believe that you shouldn't have any of my pensions. They're mine, nothing to do with you. So we're only splitting the family home. You'll learn very quickly what their views are on lots of things. You'll also possibly get financial disclosure. So if you only achieve that, you get their financial information, but you don't get to an agreement. It's quite a big step to get all your questions answered around the finances, see all the evidence, get all the information together so that you can move forward to maybe making proposals outside of mediation if you haven't managed to agree. So there's lots of benefits of mediation. Lots of people think maybe it's not going to work, and it might not, but it's a really good way of taking that stepping stone into the next level if you are not able to reach agreement yourself. If you do get to an agreement using a mediator, they will draft a document that sets out the agreement that you reached. That doesn't make it legally binding. So what the mediator writes is just what you agreed in mediation. You then need to put your finances into your agreement into a consent order, which then is sent to the court and made legally binding for the finances. If you reach agreement with the children, you can use the mediator's documents as a basis for your agreement. You don't necessarily need to make it legally binding, so you could just use those notes as your agreement. Or you can draft up a parenting plan, which I mentioned previously, that you both sign. There's different ways of doing mediation. It can be face-to-face or online. You can have mediation that is shuttle mediation, where you sit in different rooms. For some people, they're not able to sit in the room with their ex-husband or wife for various reasons, and they can't have discussions while that person is there. So the mediator would organize for both of you to sit in separate rooms, and the mediator would go between you to try and get to an agreement. Now, it can be really effective, but it's much harder because the mediator is moving around and it takes much longer rather than the three of you sitting in a room together. Usually in mediation, there isn't anybody else involved. It's the two of you plus the mediator. You can get hybrid mediation, which is where your legal advisor sits in mediation with you. It's not very common. I've never heard of anyone having that, but apparently it's a form of mediation, and some mediators do offer it, but it's not very common. With shuttle mediation, you can be online. You can have separate breakout rooms where the mediator will come between you. And there is that option of publicly funded mediation if you're on low income or on certain benefits and you have little or no savings as well. So that can help you if you don't have the money to look at mediation. With mediation, you have to go and do an initial meeting on your own. It's called a MIAM, a Mediation Information and Assessment Meeting, where the mediator will discuss whatever issues you've got. You get to speak about safeguarding, how you think mediation could proceed, and the mediator will then organize that with the other person as well. And then you have joint mediation if the mediator believes it's safe for you to have joint mediation. The other professionals that can help you from a legal point of view is obviously solicitors. They work on an hourly rate. So what you will find is that their fees can be around £350 to £400 per hour plus VAT. So you're spending, approximately £420 per hour plus, if you include VAT. So £420 plus for a solicitor to help you. And they usually will do everything for you. So they will take over the matter. They will write letters. They will speak to you and advise you. They will get letters from the other side and then speak to you about that. They will possibly undertake financial disclosure with you. So they will speak to the other side and discuss how financial disclosure will happen. And then you will both be preparing documents ready to exchange with each other. The cost of a solicitor for divorce can start from really simple divorce can be about £10,000 going upwards. The average cost in the UK is 18,000 each, but obviously it might be slightly lower than that, but often it's a lot more than that. So I see people spending 25, 30,000 each regularly. 50,000 as well from time to time. I met somebody who'd spent 100,000 themselves. Their wife had spent 100,000 and they were still on the first stage. So yeah, I wonder where that is going to end up, because it's a worry that they'll have no money left by the time they've finished. It's difficult to know how much you will spend, because when you start off, you might say, this is simple. It's not going to take too long. I think it's going to cost £10,000, for example. I think will be done really quickly. And then for whatever reason, often when you start negotiating, things get difficult and it can escalate into something that is very different to when you started. So you don't know what your costs will be, which is the worrying thing, that you start off, you think, okay, I can spend £10,000, I can afford that. And then it starts spiraling. And before you know it, it's 15, it's 20, it's 25, it's going up, and you are worried about where you are going to find the money. Let me know if any of you have instructed solicitors and, how much you've spent. You can send it as a private message. because people spend a lot of money on legal help. There's barristers, which you probably have heard of as well. They usually will help you with court proceedings. So if for whatever reason you haven't reached an agreement on any aspect or some aspects of your divorce, you may need to start court proceedings for a judge to make a decision for you. And solicitors can go to court and represent you, but usually it's barristers that do the court work. You just pay them to attend on your behalf on the day of the hearing, depending on the type of hearing, depending on the complexity and the seniority of the barrister. That's what your fees would be like. And usually they're a fixed fee. So you know that this is what you're going to have to pay for the barrister. It may be an hour's hearing, but usually the barrister has to prepare. They may have a telephone call with you beforehand. They'll probably write a statement, a position statement for the court to set out your position. They'll attend at court, have a chat with you, negotiate with the other side, and then possibly draft an order if it's necessary. So there's quite a lot that the barrister has to do for the fixed fee that they agree. So I've got a direct message. I've instructed a lawyer, but my divorce is taking place abroad as most of my properties are there. Okay. Yeah. Makes it a bit different, doesn't it? There's Mackenzie Friends. Some of you will have heard of a Mackenzie friend. This is somebody who can give you some help in court. They're not allowed to speak in court, so you're effectively standing up and talking yourself, but they're there for moral support. Sometimes a judge will allow them in the hearing. Sometimes a judge would say, no, I'm not going to allow your Mackenzie friend who's not legally trained to come into the court proceedings. Usually, if you've let the court know in advance, you'll have a Mackenzie friend. They may allow it, but no guarantee that they'll be allowed in the courtroom. But they are there just to give you moral support on the day, to guide you if you've got any questions, possibly to help you negotiate outside of court as well. So that's the legal professionals that are involved in the process. The other thing you can do is do it yourself. Lots of people don't realize that they can do it themselves, but now because of how expensive it is, more and more people are starting to do most of their divorce themselves, if not some of it. Because the truth is that you don't necessarily need a solicitor to do everything for you. You can pick and choose what you pay for. Although most people think they do need a solicitor to do it. People will always ask me, well, what if I need representation? Well, for most of the divorce proceedings, you won't be standing up in court. You won't need representation as such. A solicitor doesn't necessarily need to sign anything. There's nothing the court expects to see from a solicitor. So you don't necessarily need a solicitor for any of it. You might want a solicitor, and that's a different situation. You may want a solicitor because you're worried about doing it yourself. You may want a solicitor because of time. You might not have time to do it yourself. Maybe you've got a busy job and you just cannot carve out any extra time. The benefits of obviously doing it yourself are that you can keep your costs right down and you can buy in the help as you need it. You're in control, which is a very big thing. I've had so many clients come to me and they felt like they were out of control. They didn't understand what was happening. I've had quite a few clients who didn't know that their solicitor had started court proceedings on their behalf. And when they came to me, we looked at what was going on and realized very quickly that there was court proceedings. Solicitors can be a bit scary and cold. This is what people tell me, that when you are talking to somebody who gives you clinical legal advice, it doesn't feel very nice. I worked as a solicitor for many, many years, so I don't know if that was the case for me, but this is what people tell me, that they're really worried about going to see a solicitor. They don't necessarily explain things in terms that you will understand. So many people say to me that they have a solicitor, yet they don't understand anything. And can I help them just get to an understanding? they don't necessarily explain the different options and give you consequences of each one. So you feel a bit worried. You've been told that this is the next step and this is what's going to happen. Doesn't mean you understand why. They often follow a process rather than thinking outside of the box to see how you could get this done in a simpler way or reach agreement. We need to look more holistically, look at the psychology, look at ways of getting this agreed if there are ways. The problem with doing it yourself is that you may not have enough knowledge. You might not know where to start. Maybe you're feeling so emotional that you think you may end up giving away too much. Maybe you just can't hold strong because it's such a difficult time. Maybe you're scared and you need someone to be there to answer questions, because there's so many questions coming up for you. And that might be the case for you. Maybe you are scared and you've got so many questions. Where do you ask them? Um, so the next thing is somebody like me. You could work with me. I've got years of experience helping people through legal proceedings, helping people with their divorce. And I've been through a divorce as well myself, which makes it really different. I've got legal experience and personal experience. So pretty much all the things you will be talking about, I will fully understand. So that makes a really big difference when someone comes at a point where they have been through the same thing as you. I did feel like when I was practicing as a solicitor after my divorce, I just wasn't doing enough to help people. It felt a little bit clinical. It felt a little bit like I just wasn't helping enough because now I understand what they're going through. And I knew that I could do so much more to hold space for people, to make it more practical and somewhere where you could feel more supported. And the other thing for me, when I went through my divorce, I didn't have funds. If I didn't have legal knowledge to do it myself, I would have ended up spending tens of thousands of pounds, probably 20, 25,000 pounds that I didn't have. And where would I have got that from? I probably would have had to borrow it, and then there would have been a loan there to pay back. And I really needed to keep any money that I got because I had to buy a property, settle the children, and make sure that I kept that roof over our heads. So I understand what it's like not to want to spend too much money, maybe because you want to keep it in your pot to share, or maybe it's because you don't have it and you're worried about where you would find it from. So during that time, I decided that I had to find another way to help people. And I'll tell you a little bit about how I work and the kind of things that I do to help my clients through. And I know so many of you have reached out to ask me questions about how I work. So I'll just share a little bit about a client. Obviously, this isn't her name. Annika, she worked with me, and we met in a social situation, and she came back and she said, I'm thinking of getting divorced, don't really know what to do. I don't know how to start, but I want to prep before I even tell him. She's got a child aged 10, works full time but earns less than her husband. Their main asset is the family home. They both have pensions, a little bit of savings, but mostly the family home. But she was really scared and really uncertain, didn't have very much money, and there had been some domestic abuse, so she was a bit scared of him as well. Her priority when we worked through what her plan was to stay in the family home. She believed she couldn't make it happen. Another person who said, I don't think I'll do it, but this is what I want. And after we finish working together, I often chat to my clients to see how they felt with how I worked with them. And this is what she wrote, that she'd met me in 2017 and kept seeing me on social media in different places. It was a fixed fee, so that was good because she didn't have much money and she wanted to do it within an affordable budget. And that was it. She decided to reach out and worked with me. And what did she do? So the first thing we did together was created this vision, looking at her priorities, deciding what it is that was important to her, what was non-negotiable, what could we negotiate, and really think about how this could pan out for her. and what our next steps were. So we worked on financial disclosure first, because until we know what there is, we can't decide on the proposals. So I worked out what she had. We looked at what her husband was likely to have, and we already had an idea of what we could do. And this was before she even spoke to her husband. So she felt a bit more confident. She had more clarity because I'd already advised her. We started the divorce application together, so she felt comfortable that somebody was there helping her. And then we decided how she would tell her husband and her daughter, and she did that. The next stage was getting that information from her husband about the finances. So we walked through that. I kept keeping her moving forward, getting that information, different strategies to try and get that. And we then, once we had all the information we wanted and needed, we worked through a final proposal. So she knew exactly what her proposal was. But we started off with, this is where we start. This is our top line, and we negotiate somewhere in the middle. And we did that, and the negotiations were going on. She was very emotional during that, because if she sent an offer to her husband and he didn't respond straight away, she would get very nervous, very scared, and just want to up her offer. I kept her stable, made sure that she was moving through, keeping her nerve, and negotiating correctly. She reached an agreement, something she was really happy with. We had that put into a consent order. She reached an agreement around her child as well, and that was put into a parenting plan. So she managed to get it all done, and start transferring the property into her name within 7 months. So they, as I said, they reached an agreement. She believes she saved around £170,000 working with me. She had transferred the family home, and she continues to be the main carer of her child. But her child has a really good level of contact with dad as well, which is, an agreement that they came to. That's how they wanted it. She was scared, she was confused, but she managed to get divorced, stay in the house, and save herself some money, which is really important. And I do this through these 7 stages that I've mentioned before, because it's really important that we look at all the different stages that you will go through and the different things that you need to work on. So acceptance is really getting to that point where you've accepted that this is going to happen. You might be a bit worried. You may need to put some self-care practices in place. You may need to reach out to get help with your emotions around this time. We then look at preparing. So preparation, as I did with Annika, how do we prepare? What are your priorities? Where are you going? What really is important to you? And what do we need to protect? Obviously, her safety was important for Annika, but what do you need to protect? Is there something particular we need to put in place? Maybe even before we've told the other person to protect you. We then move on to the legal process as taking that step into possibly the divorce application, and moving through that. There may be some other legal processes that we might need to put into place, like possibly a domestic abuse injunction, an occupation order to allow you to live in the family home, anything else from a legal point of view that we need to start off. And then we start looking at finances and all the things that I spoke to you in day 2. And I spoke to you around Annika's process, children. And then hopefully we get to that agreement and we are looking at closure. How do we complete everything? What do we need to do once everything is completed? And then how do you rebuild? Because we want to see you rebuilding your identity, rebuilding your life, your finances, stabilizing things for your children and yourself, and then possibly moving on to another new vision for your life, because this is all at 7, a new chapter. So what do you need to do to grow into that new chapter? There may be through this legal proceedings, like financial court proceedings, there may be proceedings around children because you haven't reached an agreement. Sometimes there's criminal proceedings, injunction proceedings. So all of that is covered if you need help with that as well. So what is it that I offer? I haven't told you that yet. So my offering is my Divorce Right program. It's 6 months of support and guidance at a fixed fee, and I help you with everything really, with writing letters, with looking at letters that you receive and knowing how to respond to them. I help you with documents. Say, for example, you're writing a parenting plan, I'll give you a template. I'll help you create that parenting plan. If you're writing a statement like a position statement, I can help you with that. Witness statements, anything that you need to write, we are looking at that and putting it together. And I'm reviewing everything that you are doing. If you've got a divorce application to submit, I can help you with that. Financial proposals, settlement, anything really that comes up for you. You talk about anything, it's a safe space. And it comes with a supportive community as well. And bonus help around wills, all sorts of things that you need around this time that may not necessarily be about your divorce. Parenting, all sorts of things. So it's really exciting when I talk about it because I'm so passionate that you need holistic help, not just help with a legal process, because you are more than a legal process. You have hopes, dreams, fears. You are moving into a different chapter in your life, and you may need financial, emotional help. You might need legal help, but you need somewhere where you can talk about the things that are coming up for you. Often people would say, I'm feeling overwhelmed, I feel anxious, I feel scared, and we talk through what's coming up. What can we do to help move you through? I often will give my clients 3 steps. I look after the whole. You just need to worry about the 3 steps I give you. So you've got small bite-sized things to do regularly to keep taking action so that you don't feel overwhelmed often. And this is what Annika said when I spoke to her. And this is what she said that she would like to tell other people, that I'm nicer than she would have expected from a lawyer, which is interesting because I added therapy. And actually, I have to say, I don't add therapy. Obviously, she felt like I was giving her therapy, but I'm not trained as a therapist. And she felt guilty that she was using me as a therapist. Well, I can give you legal experience, personal experience, and just ideas on how to shift out of how you're feeling. The back and forth calls and intense time meant a lot, and she respected that. The program works. Do your preparation and follow what I'm telling you. On every call, I wanted to make it count and make the best out of it. It does work and can work within 6 months, but you've got to be prepared to do the work as well. I'll be there to empower you, but you've got to be ready and have that clear vision of what you want. So I hope it helps you to see what her thoughts were. And what we're doing at the end of this, and because it's such an important day to me, I like to offer you a little bit extra during this time as a way of giving back, because I know that during the time that I was going through the divorce, because I didn't have funds, lots of people gave back to me. So this is what I can do to help. So for a week, I'll be offering the program at less. It's usually £2,500 as a fixed fee, but for a week, I'll be offering it £2,250, and you actually get a month extra free as well. So it's 7 months support, 7 months messaging help. So you've got me by your side for that period. If you need to go longer, because sometimes it might take 8 months or 9 months, then you can stay with me. It's a small monthly fee to stay on to get the help that we've started, and that way you can finish off. But if, say, for example, you get to the 6 months, most things are done, you may not need that. You might just need to book a short call if you still have anything outstanding. So we look at what's best for you. And you also get a free copy of my planner as well. So if you would like to book a call to find out more about the program, find out if it's right for you, Nelma will be putting a link in the chat box to book that call, and you can just go ahead and book a time that works for you. Feel free to contact us via the website if you would like to contact us that way. And we're on different socials. There's Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube. website, and you can contact us by email as well. There's lots on YouTube, and I'll be sharing more and more. I've got lots coming for YouTube. So if you subscribe there, then that would really help you find out about all the information that I'm sharing. So there'll be replays of these 4 sessions, other replays of other talks that I've done, but also talks I've done with people going through divorce as well. So they will be useful things for you to access. So do feel free to have a look at those as well. So I'm going to stop sharing now and see if you guys had any questions. I know I rushed through today, but I have gone a little bit over time as well. Do we have recommendations for wealth management advisors? Are you able to drop me an email and I'll send you details to all of you that have asked for details of people? Could you just drop me an email? That would really help me to be able to send that over to you. So financial advisors, wealth management advisors. As my husband has traits of narcissism, he says the mediator is a waste of money as they are babysitters, but I feel it will help with sorting the finances. Really good question. When you are dealing with a narcissist, they often don't want to get to an agreement. They want to make things difficult for you. But I think that it's important to try mediation if it's safe for you to do so. You may get a level of financial disclosure that he wasn't willing to give you directly. So even if you use it for that purpose, it will be good. You will also see the things that he will say out loud. So I think it could help you. Sometimes somebody else telling him the process, telling him what will happen if he doesn't comply, can help. I felt like mediation was a waste of time. I'd already trained as a mediator, but I did go to mediation. And actually, although we didn't reach agreement, I learned so much, and he learned so much. And so actually we finished mediation because he wasn't willing to do mediation anymore. And we reached an agreement very quickly afterwards. So although the mediation didn't reach an agreement in mediation, afterwards we did, because he'd realized that this was the process and he would have to comply ultimately. But with a narcissist, what you have to be careful of is they will delay. And you need to have a plan where you just keep moving forward. Don't put your head in the sand and think, I can't deal with this. Keep moving it forward because they will delay. Something different. I'm lucky that I'm being supported fully and my children. We have the house. He's moved out. He lives close by. Is there an advantage in getting divorced? I have no plans to meet anyone else just now. That is a great question. So what are the benefits of just separating like you have to divorce? And I'll quickly answer that because I know I've got to go. The benefits of getting a divorce is that you can finalize your finances. You can reach an agreement, you put it in a consent order, and that's it. You can't claim on each other again. In separation, you could have a separation agreement that you note down what you've agreed around the finances, but it's not legally binding. If he ran out of money, he could come and get more. If there was a problem, he could say, actually, I've changed my mind. I want more. So it's not legally binding. Also, when you're separated for a period, you might find that actually what happens is that he starts moving the finances. And I'm just going to plug my laptop in. I completely forgot to plug it in, and that's not great. Let's do that. If you have been separated for 2 years, you might find that money moves around, things get complicated, and then when you come to getting divorced, suddenly, if there's no money in his account, he may say, well, you've got more than me, so I should get more. So there's different things like that that you do need to be careful of. But separation, you could have a separation agreement in place, which is a holding agreement, not fully final. Okay, I wanted to thank you for all the information you've put together for these sessions. They've certainly given me a lot to process and a clearer direction now that I have made the decision to make a change. Thank you so much for sharing that. And I'm so happy that you have now got a direction. I hope that you keep some inspiration, some hope that where you're going is going to be the right place for you and that you're going to be fine. I was so scared, and I now I'm in a very different situation, and I'm so glad that um, we've been able to move forward so much. Any chance your offer can be extended? So it'll be till next Friday. If you are looking at if you're looking at it, why don't you give me book a call? We can chat it through. Do you offer second opinion sessions or guidance? You've already commenced with a solicitor. You've been fantastic. I do offer second opinion sessions, or oh, sorry, the phone's ringing now. Um, but I don't have many of them. And the reason why that is because I get so busy that I can't always fit them in. So if I have availability, I would do that. If I don't have availability, then I couldn't. With my fixed fee program, you know that you've got me on side. And lots of people, if they've got solicitors, they just use the solicitors for letters that they might need written, not for everyday help. So you can still have a solicitor and work with me as well. It just saves you a bit of money. So yes, it's possible. Reach out if you would like to consider that, if you want to know more about how the program might benefit you as well. So I've been very lucky. My clients get so much, they feel empowered, and they feel like it's been a period of growth for them as an individual, not just through their divorce, which is what we want. We want you to grow and learn through this process as well. And when you come out of the other side, you'll feel like you can manage any challenge that comes your way, because actually you've dealt with such a big thing already. So I hope that helps. I'm going to end it there because I do have to go, but it's been so lovely to spend these 4 days with you. I'd love to know your thoughts. How have you found the sessions so far? Some of you have already told me. I'd love to find out what bits you found helpful. Did you feel like there was more hope? Did you feel that you could do this now? Absolutely do this. Whichever route you take, whichever advisor you use, that you're going to be fine and you can get through. I hope that you do feel empowered to be able to take steps and keep your costs down, which is a really important thing, because it can be such a costly time for you. So I hope that's helped. I'm just going to stay off camera and on mute, and I'd love it if you could just drop me some feedback on how you have found this. Very helpful, and appreciate your time to do these classes. No problem. I'm glad that they were helpful. That's the main thing. So thank you so much. And I look forward to having a chat with some of you that reach out. If you want to find out more about any advisors, if you want to join my women's group, which is a free WhatsApp group, and then we also meet up as well, do let me know. If you need any help, if you want to book a call, that's absolutely fine as well. You've been amazing. I've been procrastinating. This is moving me forward with knowledge. Brilliant. You are an inspiration and give me hope that there is a better future, albeit I'm older than you. God bless. I'm not sure. I'm pretty old now, but you know what? The age is not a barrier. You can do this. I have 3 businesses. I've moved on a lot in my life, and if I can do it from where I was, you definitely can as well. So good luck. Sending you all love, and I will catch up with you very soon. Take care.